It just never happened. I didn't think emotions were bad. My father certainly didn't teach me that crying as a man made you weak or some nonsense like that. It just wasn't my spiel. I was the guy who showed up. Wasn't the fastest, wasn't the prettiest, maybe close on that one, wasn't the smartest, but man, I showed up and got stuff done. I was at the game. Even if I was messing the game up, I was there and I was working. And while everybody else was having ups or downs, I viewed it as my spiritual gift, if you will, to be steady, to be constant, and just to keep on walking. Dory was like my spirit animal. Just keep swimming. Over and over and over and over again. And for years, that's what I did. That's who I was. It defined my professional life. It defined my personal life. It defined my every aspect of me and my friendships and my family, so on and so forth. I was the one that showed up every Sunday night to take my sister Nia for a 2 to 3 hour ride to get French fries, sweet tea, and ranch dip. All the time. I walk in the house, hey, Bobo. Yes, dear, it's time for a ride. Wow, what a surprise, sweetie. And off we went, right? I was the one who showed up early. Things had to be done. I got there and did it. Floors needed to be swept. I wasn't above that. Toilets needed to be cleaned. Well, maybe I was above that. But I showed up until I got wrecked. And I went through about a 2-year period of life where in boxing we have a saying where that boy got beat from corner to corner. You ever heard that? He's getting beat from corner to corner, George. And what that means is you're going from one spot of butt whooping to the other spot of butt whooping. And when you're trying to escape one, you just run into another. And for 2 years of my life, I got my butt whooped. And at some point during a failed marriage, during ups and downs with business, during losing my sister, during all those different things and more, that dam, whatever it was in my life, broke. And I went from being an internal, emotional person to an absolute crybaby. I remember one day I was listening to a book. And it was it was an action like Dungeons and Dragons, swords and sorcerers. And this guy was like, this kingdom slighted me and my daughter are going to go burn them down. And he realizes in the book, it's not even dramatic, right? Most of y'all are looking at me like he is nuts, right? It's not dramatic at all. He realizes that his daughter no longer needs his help to go blow up the nation. And this guy laments for it. And I cried like a baby. I mean, I absolutely cried because in my mind, I was like, Izzy doesn't need me to fight her battles anymore. And I'm not talking about like sweet little tears. I'm talking like ugly crocodile tears snotting out my nose. I could barely drive. And I got to this place after like 15 minutes of going to work. And I was like, what in the world has happened to me? Because that was never my MO. How many of y'all have ever cried at a Hallmark movie? Never in my life until 2.5 years ago. You know what I hate now more than all? Hallmark movies, because I cry every single time, right? It drives me nuts. But you know, the one night that I remember that I think broke that part of me was the first night after my divorce when I moved into my own apartment without Izzy there. And I cried like a baby. It didn't stop. Didn't feel better. But I was broken. I don't think I slept a wink that night. I was wrecked because life seemed hopeless. Because everything had burned down to the point that I didn't even have my daughter with me anymore. And so I want to ask you again, what wrecks you in life? Because when you've been there, and for you, the scenario probably looks very different. But I'm betting that the destination is very similar. When you've been at the end of your rope, when you've hit rock bottom and just kept on digging, and then by the grace of God, you survive somehow, some way, and you see that in another person. You see it in somebody's life. When you've lost someone that was such a centerpiece in your life, and then you know and care for someone who loses a person very similar to that, your heart can't help but be moved. When you've gone through a scenario and you see somebody else at the same pit, in the same pain, with the same angst and the same hopelessness and the same terrifying realization that they will probably fail, the very few people that still rely on them. Can't help but be moved. And this is why, when we come to sermons like today, that I get so impassioned about them. This is why I get both so excited and so emotional over the idea of serving others, because in my darkest times, I survived by the grace of God and by the love of a community that supported me. And guys, that is what we're here to do. That's how we spread the gospel.